Hello and welcome back to Internalize the podcast where I talk about things and I think about things and I speak stuff out loud without any care of what I am saying. I get derailed a lot and yeah. So welcome back first of all. I know it has been a while and this is something I do say quite often. It has been a while since I have created a podcast episode. I feel like creating is a little bit of a disingenuous statement, more like I have recorded a podcast episode. It has been quite a while since I did that. So I am sorry for the delay for anyone who is actually, well, interested in the podcast. For people who are not, they're probably not listening anyway. So it doesn't matter. Uh, so I think something quite interesting that I have thought about is why I find it difficult to keep things consistent when it comes to doing creative pursuits, whether that's making YouTube videos uh, or producing music. I haven't made a song in ages. I haven't produced something in absolutely ages. So the question is why, right? I don't know why why it's the case for me. I don't know why I don't finish projects. I don't know why I find it hard to stay consistent. But it's not somewhere I want to be. To put it lightly, I'd rather be more consistent because honestly I do enjoy doing all this stuff. I really like recording podcast episodes. I love producing music. When I'm in the process, when I'm like sucked in and I'm in the zone, it's like it's super fun. The kind of what's the word, the kind of fulfillment that I get from doing this isn't really replicable by any other thing, honestly. So that is that's what I want to think about a little bit, and I want to think aloud about how I intend on fixing it, or how I have started to fix it, because it was quite an interesting process to say the least. It was quite uh it was it was something that I've been thinking about for a long time, and I finally decided to go forth with it. So that's so let's get going. I think the example I'm going to use here primarily is music production, because that is the thing that I do the least and the thing that I love doing the most, which is the irony of the whole situation, to be honest. But anyway, let's get going. I think let's talk about music production and why I'm not able to be consistent. What often tends to happen is when I start doing something creative, whatever that means. That's also a discussion for another time. What does creative mean? I feel like I haven't read enough philosophy to make such a judgment just yet. Anyway, uh, I I often get started with something, but I don't really know where to go next. I don't find it difficult to start things anymore. I used to, but what has changed is I've sort of created a system for idea generation and idea capture. So I've started a process um, where I have a system. The process is a little bit of it's an inaccurate word. It's a system that allows me to capture ideas easily. Because I tend to have ideas quite often, but the issue is I don't really know where to. I don't remember the ideas, and what the system has allowed me to do is uh it's given me somewhere to start from, a starting point, which is something that I've not really had for a while. I mean, I've never had it since I started the system. It's the theory of starting. It's not starting from a blank slate. You're basically starting from abundance. I have an abundance of ideas on a Notion page, and I have um the abundance of ideas allows me to choose any one that I want and go deep into it for a blog post, for example. Uh, so that has really benefited my podcast and blog creation process, especially in the sense that, again, starting from abundance, it means that I have somewhere to go from, especially That's the hardest part, right? Starting is the most difficult part. But now I have somewhere to start from and I have somewhere to go. And so there is some structure, there is a direction, there's a path that I can walk on, which is quite helpful for the blog process. Now, let's take music production for example. I I find it quite simple to come up with to come up with ideas. Again, it's the whole starting from abundance thing. I do have quite an abundance of ideas, mainly because I I've started recording ideas, whether they're in the form of notes or in the form of audio files or voice recordings. I've recorded ideas that I've had for stuff in. Uh, I have recorded the ideas, so I have somewhere to go from in that sense. So that gives me a starting point, but the issue is I don't really have much of a direction, right? The base of the project gets put into place quite simply because I work on the idea a little bit more and it gains a little bit of structure in that sense. But I have a vague, so it's a vague idea that gets a little bit worked on, but because there's such an incredibly vast number of ways I can go from there, I often just get sort of flustered and I stop. The reason for that is sort of funny because I don't like doing things multiple times over. I'd rather do it the first time and do it right, which is probably not the best idea, not the best mind space to be in, especially for something like music production where experimenting is a process of trial and error. But that skill is something I need to work on a little bit more, and I'll work on it a little later, I suppose. But anyway, it's a paradox at the moment, right? The paradox is that I don't know where to go, and I'm scared of going anywhere because I want to go to the right place first, but the only way to go to the right place first is by going somewhere. So it's odd. It's like stalemate. You can't do anything. There's no zugzwang might be the better chess terminology. There's nowhere to go. So I end up sitting on the project and I abandon it, I suppose. Abandon may not be the term. The idea sits dormant for some time because I don't really know how to go further with it. I don't know how to answer the question of what to do next. I don't know how to figure out what to do. So before I come up with the answer, I will just drink some water. I'm not sponsored yet. This is a point of an ad break, but I do not get ads. So water break it is. And the answer I've figured out, or I've at least hypothesized, is to create a system. I think I thrive when I have systems to fall back on, and the an example of this is my study process because it relies quite heavily on the fairly robust system that I've set up for remembering things. For retaining information, that's the most important part of it. This helps set me up for success in an exam because I've sort of cracked the code for that, I guess. So I can focus more on actually understanding the material, which again helps me in an exam in later on, and uh, that so I don't really have to worry too much about the exam part of it because I know that the systems that I have set up are robust enough to let me to solve that bit of the learning puzzle. So what I want is a similar thing for creativity or uh, for music production specifically. Although something for a blog might also be in order. I think the issue with blogs and podcasts, which sort of a tangential thing, is that I don't give myself enough time to work on it. I sort of just jam everything into one writing session, which is not the greatest idea in the world. But that should be changed from next week when uh, I guess, what do you say? I improve my calendar system. I give myself more time for like for writing instead of just saying creativity as a vague term. Anyway, that was a tangent, and back to the point at hand. I want a system for music production because I hope that would help me make more music and more often. because I want a framework basically. I want a framework for how to create a song. And so I'll have a starting and an end point, and I will have, so wherever I am in the process of making a song, I know how far I am from the destination, which gives me some sort of incentive to finish, because I know it's only so far. I only have to do three more steps or two more steps or whatever those, how many ever steps they are. That is what I intend on doing. This also should help me just finish projects, because I have a habit of just being a perfectionist and trying to optimize every single element, which I guess it is good, but if you want to make a lot of music, which is what I want to do, that is not really helpful. So again, progress over perfection. Now, what it does basically is removes uncertainty, which is quite a big part of create the creative process. There's an uncertainty, inherent uncertainty about how to make a song, or where your song is going, or that kind of thing. And that is what I hope to eliminate with this process. And this should allow me to make more music more often and release it more on my YouTube, which is what I have been intending to do for a long time, and I have not gotten around to doing it. If anyone's been keeping up uh on my YouTube knows that I haven't been posting for a long time. Now, the system is quite primitive. There's no real, I can't say it's perfected just yet, and I don't expect it to be perfected much very soon. Another water break. And, but my primitive idea, I think the thing is called a dog food version, the alpha, pre alpha, is is like a step by step guide is probably a better word than framework, but it's a guide, it's a framework that I'll keep at it, I'll use it, I'll work on it as I use it, and it should become a lot more robust and reliable as I go on. And so here's the system. Basically, I want to start off with with analysis. I want to listen to the ideas. I want to listen to sort of reference tracks, reference tracks, sort of reference mixes, production ideas, all that kind of stuff is, I listen to it properly and make notes. I feel like that's quite important in again setting a sort of a direction, a creative idea, instead of just being some sort of nebulous thing that doesn't well have any structure as of yet. So that's first analysis. Secondly, chordal elements. Again, they're the emotional base of a song. So that's what I intend on putting first. After listening, putting into the software first, and they layer the bed on which other stuff are placed. And again, the emotional feel, most important part of a song is emotion. So that has to be set into place first. So again, that's set into place. Second is melodic, or third if you're counting the first step as the first step. I'm probably counting it more as a step zero prerequisite. But step two is melodic bits. There's not the leads, to be fair. They're more like auxiliary parts. They're like arpeggios, they're like counters, they're like strums. I mean, they're chords, but like a little bit extended. They're complementary parts. Next, percussion. Again, that's the groove bit. Super important. The groove dictates the pace of the song. The again important for emotion and feel. So groove, percussion, that will be put into place. And lead is finally what ties it all together. It contextualizes all the bits of the song, and they could be vocal leads or instrumental leads depending on the kind of song I'm doing. But that is also my second to last step. And then texture and ear candy. Again, just tying up loose ends, basically having more intentional shifts, having more movement in a song instead of it sitting still and boring and repetitive. Having texture in your candy is sort of important in that, and that can only be added after the base of the song is completely put into place. Finally, the gift wrapping the song and tying it in a neat bow and posting it is the mixing, mastering, and release, which will be the last bits of the song, of course. Now, while while I was writing the blog post, which this is based on, I started thinking a little bit about whether systems kill creativity. Um, Basically, what you're doing here, what I am doing here, is putting myself in a box and saying this is the a process that you're going to use to build a song. Does that limit the creativity? Does that limit my creativity? Honestly, I don't know. I think that's quite an interesting topic of discussion. But logically, if you think about it, it should reduce creativity because it doesn't really allow for interesting ideas to be thought of. Because you're not creativity is inherently nebulous, and by removing the nebulous nature of it, it becomes sort of like a series of steps, like an algorithm, and that may be a sort of side effect of using such a system. But as a counterpoint, the best art is often birthed in a place filled with restrictions. So maybe creating your own restrictions, something which people do quite a lot, and something that I'm doing right now, can inspire new ideas that can be understood and contextualized in different ways. Coming up with ideas is trivial, in a sense trivial. It's not easy, but it's trivial in a sense. But contextualizing the idea, understanding how to use the idea is more important, and hopefully putting myself in a place of restriction can help with that. For example, like a new sound can be used in different ways, and maybe contextualizing the different steps of it as a series of boxes can help me understand which box a certain sound fits into. uh Honestly, this is a sort of personal decision for me. I don't know, like as someone who's really into using Notion for productivity, it's like that's the parallel I've drawn. It sort of makes more sense to me. I sort of like the organization and the kind of process elements of it. It's like a road with an end. Some people like that. That was weird. That's a blooper. I forgot to turn off my alarm. But anyway, some people enjoy that. Some people don't, which is, of course, it's fine, to each their own. Some people enjoy open fields. And yeah, so the most important point, I think, of systemizing is to not be completely constrained by the system. It should be it should allow for some sort of nebulousness. It should allow for flexibility, which is kind of a counter to the other systems I've built, but this flexibility will allow for creativity to breed. And that is what I will work on more and more as this system goes from its dog food stage to its beta. I mean, to its alpha and then the beta and the finally the full release, to use programming terminology. And this hopefully should help me generate more creative ideas and finished projects. Now, this will be updated further later on, but that will be all for today. Thank you for listening. And before I head out, before I leave, I need to make an announcement, so to speak. I think Internalize as a podcast will evolve. It will not be based on the blog post anymore. So make sure to subscribe to the blog post either on Medium at medium.com/at Mukund Shyam, or Substack Mukund.Sham, no, Mukund Shyam at subs no mukundsham.substack.com. If you subscribe here, if you want to listen to this kind of podcasts more, it will evolve. Whether it's next week or the week after that or a little bit later, I do not know, but it will most likely evolve, and it should hopefully become a lot more interactive and interesting. And that is all for today, I suppose. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing to the blog. If you have not, again, please make sure to do so. And keep your eyes peeled on the YouTube channel. There will be stuff releasing very, very soon. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next week. Goodbye.